North Carolina is always a place that I've come back to. My family has a lot of pretty quiet properties. So in Pokeful, it's a very rural, quiet area. And then we have a few cabins up in the Asheville area. And those places are both very, very solitary and quiet too. If you go out there, you can see a lot of stars and a lot of wildlife. And so I feel like I carry that around. I love living in big cities, but there's also part of me that likes to be really quiet, and that comes from being around those kind of environments growing up. Hi, I'm Mary Lattimore. I'm a harpist. I'm originally from Asheville, North Carolina, but my family now lives in Pokeful, which is in Cleveland County. The first song I'm going to play is called It Feels Like Floating. I wrote the song sort of based on the feeling of swimming in the ocean. So I wanted the sounds to be kind of enveloping, kind of like how it feels to be floating in the ocean. So, thank you. I really like to swim a lot. I go swimming a lot when I'm on tour, like to get the hotels with the pools, and I've spent a lot of time near water. I live in California now, but I grew up going with my family to Atlantic Beach down there, coastal North Carolina, and my sister and mom and I and grandmother would go swimming in the ocean. It's always really wonderful. And I think the harp offers a lot of sort of watery sounds, and I like the thought of being able to create sort of immersive kind of loops where it's just sort of the sound is kind of swimming around you. I just love the idea of the harp kind of sounding watery. My mom is a harpist, and so I grew up around harps, and she has a lot of friends who are harpists, and so she also has a harp ensemble, the Blue Ridge Harp Ensemble, and so I grew up hearing the harp a lot, and her practicing a lot. So that's kind of my earliest memories, is like of her playing the harp. And then I started when I was 11 after taking some piano lessons. Started with a friend of hers and just continued on. I went on to play in high school. I got more serious about it, and then I went to music conservatory in Rochester, New York, the Eastman School of Music. And during that time, I also studied abroad. I went to Italy and I went to Austria and studied with harpists there. Just got kind of deeper into the classical music studies. But then I moved to Philadelphia and I started to play more with bands. So I would write parts for people's records, like mostly rock bands, and just sort of try to incorporate the sound of the harp into that kind of music. And then I started doing more experimental, more like improvisatory playing after I sort of solidified the part writing. I like to make progress and to learn, keep learning, and like keep trying out new things. So there's a lot of potential in this instrument that hasn't been tapped into as widely. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next too. The next song I'm going to play is called Otis Walks into the Woods, and it's a song about our black lab who passed away. He was blind, and my family lives on this farm outside of Shelby, North Carolina, and Polkville, North Carolina, and he just walked out into the woods one day to pass away, which was kind of his way of separating himself from the pack. So I decided to write this song sort of as a tribute to him, because he was a very sweet and noble, beautiful dog. I guess the first time I played with a band, it was with the Arcade Fire, and this was after their record called Funeral, and they were on tour, and I met them when I was in Missouri, and I went to see them play, and it turns out that they had a harp on their record, which was actually two of the members, their mom plays the harp, and so she had played on their record, and so I was moving to Philly pretty soon after I saw them, and they said that they were playing in Philly, and they asked me if I wanted to play the parts that were on the record live. And I had never played before in front of people, like played non-classical music that wasn't already written down in front of people. And so I just said yes because I thought it would be really fun, but I was also really nervous about it. And so once I did that, and it was a sold out show, and it was, people were crazy about them, and it was a really warm kind of initiation into playing music that wasn't written down and wasn't classical music. So I just decided that that's what I wanted to start to do with other bands. In Philly, I had a lot of musician friends, and so they were all a lot of people were really open to incorporating harp into that. I definitely feel like the harp it can't be replicated with any other instrument, the sound of the harp strings is just so warm and so kind of round, and it doesn't sound like anything else. And there's also like the glissando aspect, which is like it's this kind of sound that you can't really, it's kind of the definitive harp sound. So a lot of people like to use that too on recordings. But yeah, it's just definitely something that can't be imitated by any other instrument, I think. The last song I'm going to play is called For Scott Kelly Returned to Earth, and it's a song that I wrote for the astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent the most consecutive days in space up there. I think it was almost a year or a little over a year. And he had this Instagram account where he would sort of post beautiful photos of the Earth from up above, and just kind of musings about how it felt to be so far away from society and from the people on Earth. But he was up there thinking about the news and things that were going on down below. So I thought that was really beautiful. And at the same time, I had an accident where I broke my jaw, and I had to have my jaw wired shut for 2 months, and it was very excruciating. It was horrible because I couldn't talk at all, and it's really frustrating because I'm a pretty social person, and so being away from socializing like that was pretty hard. But I sort of felt akin to him being up in space, and so him coming back down to Earth and me getting my jaw unwired was kind of happening at the same time. So I wrote him this song, and I sent it off to NASA, and they wrote back and they said that he really liked it.